it seems that, at least for me, the older you get, the faster time moves.
Amen.
You know, it just seems like it was just Easter. And now here we are, it's Christmas. It's like you turn around once and poof, a year is gone. A year. 365 days, it's just gone. And as the revelation of another year looms on the horizon and thinking about one ending, it began to hit me this week as introspection sets in. And, you know, I'm sitting in front of the computer with my notes and a cup of coffee thinking, what more can I say? What can I say about that hasn't already been said? Or what do I need to express? And I began to think, what have I accomplished this year? What have I done? What have I achieved that I set out to do this year? And I began to think, realized that the big one for me was retiring from my secular job. That was a big thing for me. But even more so, I began to think, you know, I'm getting older. I'm 63 now, going on 64. What is still on my bucket list that needs to be accomplished? I've had to slowly convince Tim that retirement is not just going to a different job. It's not giving up one job for another. It's no longer going to a job. But quite honestly, the retirement has been a blessing for both of us. And as I sat in front of this blank Word document, thinking, okay, it's Thanksgiving, it's the end of the church year, holidays are coming, what can I say? I began to realize that any time that there's introspection, anytime you start looking inside, anytime you start analyzing things, you get a little uncertainty in there too. Some doubts creep in, what ifs happen. It's only human to realize that in the midst of accomplishment, each of us faces doubts and fears. We think, well, I did this, but maybe not as much or as well or as hard as I should have. And I think even now in this day and age of instant communication, instant news, it's so hard to tear ourselves away from what's going on inside of ourselves to see what we really need to be thinking about. It's so hard to get past the current events that are going on in our world, even the political situation aside. Just thinking about all the instability there is in the world. You know, I sat there thinking, what kind of world do we live in where literally thousands of people leave their homes and their families to walk thousands of miles for something better? What makes people want to leave everything they've done all their lives and go somewhere that they don't even know anything about other than what they've heard or what they've seen on their TVs or their phones? I thought about all the civil wars that are still raging in this world. One story of bloodshed after another, and turmoil, and brothers fighting brothers, and tribes fighting tribes. And I thought about the thousands of people who die each and every day from hunger and disease, not because there's not enough food, not because there's not enough resources, not because there's not enough medicine, but because there's just not enough love and concern to get the resources where they need to be. And we can't stop the wars long enough to take care of the people who are hurting. And then the story pops up in my news feed that human trafficking is at an all-time high in the world right now. Can you believe that? Human trafficking. And so, as I sat there trying to come up with some message for Thanksgiving, some positive thing to tell everybody this morning, I thought, gosh, every time I look at the news or my news feed or get some information, everything comes together and does everything it can just to shake my confidence. And I asked myself, what can I tell my friends on Sunday to help them face another day? To keep from saying this world's just falling apart, we just need to throw up our hands and give in. And I thought, here we are with the holiday season approaching. This week is Thanksgiving. And if you walked anywhere, any of the big box stores or whatever, they've already got Christmas out. I've been getting Black Friday flyers in the mail for 2 weeks. We're just caught. Here we are in a week that we are supposed to say, this is what I'm thankful for. Let me celebrate what I'm thankful for. Let me celebrate this rugged individualism that the Pilgrims had when they got on a boat and they came to America. But before we can even adjust to what we're supposed to be thankful for, Christmas is here. Advent comes week after next, and then Christmas, and we turn around again, and it's Lent. Everything moves so rapidly these days, and I think sometimes we just don't get the full enjoyment and pleasure of celebrating the beauty of what God really has blessed us with. And there are days that I just want to stand up and scream, stop the world, I want to get off. Just stop this world and let me off. Let me breathe for a day. Let me go a day without bad news. Let me go a day and just feel blessed. To be honest, if you're like me, perhaps you're not sitting in front of a blank computer screen, but you're driving down the road, or you're looking at a pile of bills, or whatever it is in your life that you're facing, and your confidence gets shaken too. You're like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this week, much less next. And so I read the lessons from the lectionary, and once again, could not be more happy that part of the lectionary text comes from Hebrews. Because Hebrews is truly a letter of encouragement. And I had to remember that the entire letter or sermon of Hebrews was written as a letter of encouragement to people who were just like us, who had seen so much oppression and so much war and so much famine. And they realized that Jesus wasn't coming back tomorrow, although he might. We're just sort of falling away from the faith. And so whoever wrote Hebrews was saying, folks, we got to keep it together. And so he was telling us, just keep it together. Let me encourage you. And so, as I read the passage for today, I have to tell you, my confidence was renewed in how God still is at work in this world. and how our lives are changed by the hand of God each and every day. If you want to follow along with me, I'm going to be reading from the 10th chapter of Hebrews today, starting with the 19th verse. And I invite you to hear the word of the Lord and open your hearts to the encouragement that it brought to me. The author writes, "Therefore, brothers and sisters, since we have confidence to enter the most holy place by the blood of Jesus, by a new and living way opened for us through that curtain, that is, his body, since we have a great priest over the house of God, let us draw near to God with a sincere heart and with the full assurance that faith brings, having our hearts sprinkled to cleanse us from a guilty conscience, and having our bodies washed with pure water. Let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess. For he who promised is faithful. And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching." This ends our reading for today. This is the Word of God, and it can be trusted. Thanks be to God. Up until this point, the author of Hebrews has gone into great detail of how Jesus, in his act of sacrificial love, tore the veil of the Holy of Holies. When he died upon the cross, the veil that separated the Holy of Holies that only the high priest could go into was ripped from top to bottom. And through his body, his death, his sacrifice, that veil was torn, giving all of us access to the Holy of Holies now. Gave us all access to the very heart of God. And so as we enter this week of thankfulness, this week of thanksgiving, I want us all to remember that we have been called to persevere in our faith. Not only was the audience, the original audience of this letter, called to persevere, but we today, in spite of all that's going on around us, have been called to persevere in our faith. We have been called to remember that God is still in control. That's the great message of Hebrews. That no matter what else is going on in this world, we are called to persevere in our faith because we are assured that God's love and power are still in control. And in these few short verses that I just read, the author gives us a few hints about how we can keep our hearts focused on the confidence that God inspires. First, our lesson tells us today in no uncertain terms that this institution, this community of faith, this body of believers, this family that we call church, we gather in a sure knowledge that our consciences are clear, that we have had our hearts cleaned and cleared by the grace of God, and that each of us sitting here this morning can know without a shadow of a doubt that no matter what else is going on in this world, we can be confident in the forgiveness that we have received. We've been given this community, this church, this band of believers, these friends that we come together with each Sunday to encourage us to love one another and to act on this love, to be the physical presence of God in this world, in our deeds and our words of kindness. We're reminded to hold on confidently, or as the translation this morning says, unswervingly. Isn't that a beautiful word? Unswervingly. Hold on unswervingly. Not left or right, unswervingly. Straight down the middle of God's highway. He has laid the narrow straight. He has made the way. He has cleared the rocks. He has paved the road. He just invites us to go unswervingly down that road. Unswervingly to that hope that we have been called to share. That gospel message that we have been called to share with others. The passage today has a keynote, and that is confidence. Confidence. Our passage brims with confidence. And that means that we live our lives open to scrutiny. I'm an open book. Look at me. I am transparent. What you see is what you get. Warts and all. We're filled with boldness. We are filled with fearlessness. We are filled with joy to such an extent that when we walk out of here on Sundays, we walk out with our heads held high and we look at everybody straight in the eye without any fear or any shame because we are called God's own. We're confident because regardless of what anyone else may say, we know, we are confident without any hesitation, without any reservation, that we are not simply members of God's household. We are not relegated to the downstairs, but we are ourselves God's house. We are God's dwelling place. We are God's temple, over which Christ our brother is our overseer. So it's that kind of confidence we walk out of here with each Sunday. It's that kind of confidence that shapes our lives with boldness. And we're confident because we know that we are known. We're confident because we know that we are known by our Savior, Jesus Christ. And as we learned earlier in Hebrews, it wasn't just knowing us. He knows us because he was tempted by the same things that tempt us. He was faced with the same weaknesses that we face. And that's how he knows us. He knows everything about us. He knows every temptation we've gone through. He knows every weakness. He knows every stumbling block that we faced. That's how well he knows us. And it's that assurance that gives us the grace because we've been given that grace. It is that kind of grace that we use to help others in their time of need. This certainty that we carry with us is because we know that by a very single act of love that Jesus has perfected each of us for all time. He has called us his brothers and sisters. He has grafted us into the family of God. And he has said, you are God's children. You are my Father's children. You are all my brothers and sisters. It's this conviction that we have. It's not something we've done for ourselves. We just started looking at Scientology this morning in Sunday school. It's all about the self. It's all about the self. What you can do for yourself. How you can change yourself. That's not what we as Christians believe. We know what we live in is what was done for us as a free gift. It was done on our behalf. One who loves us greater than we can even love ourselves. Greater than we can even comprehend. Because we were loved. Each of us that's here this morning was loved so much that were we the only one, God would still have sent Jesus to die for you, me. We were the only one. Christ had still died on our behalf. Because that's how much God loves us. That is the confidence that Hebrews brings to us. In this bold relationship that we have with God, the veil's torn. We go right into the Holy Holies. The writer says, boldly approach the throne of God and bring your petitions and your prayers to Him. Bring your needs to God, because you can come right in there. You don't have to wait on a high priest to do it. You have full access to the Holy of Holies now. So this bold relationship that we have with God that we see in our lesson today spills over. It spills over into the relationships that we have with one another. The author tells us to encourage one another in love and service. We don't just sit here and then leave forgetting about each other when we leave this place today. The author goes on to remind us, it's important to come together and worship. People had quit going to church. They had quit gathering in homes to worship, to praise, to support each other. That's why they were trying to live in isolation. He says, don't sacrifice coming together. Don't not go together and share that meal. Don't not go together and praise. Don't not go together. It's important to come together. Don't underestimate the power of community. Because in that community there is an arena of grace that is judgment-free. It's where you can open up into yourself. It's where you can be forgiven and forgive. We need each other more than we can imagine. And anchored by God's grace and strengthened by our fellowship with each other, our confidence becomes bolstered each time we come to worship. And we become so confident that when we walk out of this place, we can face opposition. We can even face hostility and still be a bold and public witness to our community. This year at Pride, I had the pleasure of talking with several pastors. And these weren't weirdo pastors either. Believe me, I've been there with the weirdo pastors too. I had the pleasure of talking with several pastors this year, and I was so proud to tell them, and I made it well known that we were there 10 years ago when they were still hiding in their sanctuaries. I let them know that we were the first open and affirming church to show up at Pride. But when I had the pleasure of talking to them, and it seemed like every other booth was an open and affirming church this year. There were so many churches there you couldn't stir them with a stick. But never in my lifetime did I think in the upstate of South Carolina that I would see this many churches at upstate Pride. And Baptist churches. Not one, not two, but 3 Baptist churches at Pride. Folks, we planted a seed 10 years ago. Longer than that. Because we were bold and we were confident in being children of God, that we could say, we believe the gospel is for everyone. And there's not a church on the face of this earth that can take that away. We may not think much. 22 people sitting here on a Sunday morning. We make a difference in this community. We make a difference in people's lives. So proud of it. So proud. And if nothing else, I'm thankful to be a part of that. And we do that by simply living boldly and confidently in who we are, without reservation. The writer of Hebrews says, be confident disciples. Be confident disciples. Deal confidently with guilt and shame. Don't let it divide you. Let it unite you. Break down the barriers of timidity. Paul writes, God did not give us a spirit of timidity, but of boldness. I am who my Creator created me to be. And I'm proud of it, and I'm thankful for it. Because had He created me any differently, I wouldn't be standing here this morning. We're given boldness and confidence by what Christ has done for us. Because He condemned the power of sin and shame. He took it away. And none of us here have a thing to be ashamed of. We're called to live boldly, confidently, and proudly as God's own. So as we gather in Thanksgiving today, think about this the rest of the week as you sit around your table thinking about what you're thankful for this week. Remember to thank God for the gift of boldness, for the gift of confidence,